You get to define what success looks like for you. I grow so tired of seeing and hearing, especially in the real estate industry, but I think it's entrepreneur life in general, that you always have to be doing more, producing more, closing more. And I personally got wrapped up in that thought for years. I got into real estate when I was 23 and I really wanted to prove myself. I felt like I had something to prove, not just to myself, but in general. I was young then and always was focused on at the end of the year when I would be setting new goals, closing more transactions, bringing in more profit. And it reached a point that every year I was constantly chasing more. And at the time, I didn't realize it. I was getting further and further away from what I really love about real estate, and that is the relationships that I form with my clients. And as my business expanded and I kept chasing more and more and more, I was getting further away from that because I eventually found myself owning a brokerage and not having that client interaction nearly as much because I was running operations and supporting the agents at my brokerage. And I was chatting with a friend of mine the other day. We were talking about how the real estate industry in general, we are conditioned in a sense to always feel like we have to be closing more to be successful. And that just simply isn't true. Success is different for all of us. And we get to define that. That is the beauty of being an entrepreneur and growing your own real estate business. And as a new agent, I think that it is something that I really didn't latch onto or even think about. And I hope that it's something that you will think about, that you don't have to feel pressure for your business to look any type of way other than how you want it. Maybe you only want to sell a few houses a year because you want to be able to be immersed in your kids' lives, or maybe you're a caretaker for an elderly parent, or maybe you just want time to pursue hobbies or other passions. All of that is perfectly okay. There is no set bar that you have to reach to be deemed successful in real estate. Even though, if you look at social media for even 15 minutes or even YouTube, it is how to 10 times your business, how to close, 100,000 in your first year in real estate. And all of those things are perfectly fine if that's what you truly want. And I think that is my biggest message today, is when you are sitting down and thinking about what you want your business to look like, really try to put blinders on and not be influenced by what other people are putting out there for what they deem is success. And that's great for them. It's not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with wanting to close six figures your first year in real estate, or wanting to sell 100 houses, or whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with that. That is what works for them, but it shouldn't be this bar that's out there that we are all trying to meet and then exceed every single year if that's not truly what we want. And I found myself getting to a point where I was really questioning whether or not I wanted to be in real estate anymore. And I kept thinking, like, what is it that has me feeling this way? Because I deeply love real estate and helping others, but it was because I had pulled myself away in the name of producing more and being a top producer and hitting a certain percentage in Virginia with wanting to be in the top agents. And I had gotten away from the client facing activities that really do just fill me up. That is what brings me joy, and having that relationship grow. And it's the same with helping new real estate agents. I absolutely love helping a new agent find their way and talking them through their challenges and their doubts. And for me, neither one are about hitting a certain level of production or having a certain number of agents join me at my brokerage. It was never about that. It's always been quality over quantity, but I I think I felt less than if I wasn't constantly pushing myself to reach a new level of achievement. And it wasn't filling me up, it was burning me out. Success should be what fills you up, what is bringing you the most joy in your business. It's not about a certain sales volume or a certain number of units that you've sold. It's about what works for you in your life. And all of our lives are different, and our lives evolve too. I am not the same person I was when I was in my 20s. I'm 40 now, and life looks very, very different for me. Not necessarily for the good, but not necessarily for the bad either. I'm just a different person. I have different physical capabilities than I've had in the past, and I also have a different mental capacity than I did in the past. Our lives change. Maybe you are getting into real estate and this is a second career, and you're still going to be at your full-time job while you are working to transition to real estate full time. You're going to have limitations. It doesn't mean that you're less than, it doesn't mean that you aren't successful. And I wish that this was talked about more in the real estate industry, because it can feel very defeating and it can impact your self confidence, because we get this idea in our heads that we have to be doing more. And if you're anything like me, start tying your worth to how much you're closing. And that is such a misstep to make. Do not make the same mistake that I did. And that's not what it's about. It is about designing a business that fits into your life and is fulfilling, whatever that looks like. I can't emphasize enough to sit down. I like to do this October, November timeframe. Really sit down and look at what you want your business to look like. And I have gotten away from setting specific numeric goals. I do have a goal that I need to hit every year, of course, to survive and pay the bills. For all of us, a certain amount of work that we need to do in order to maintain our livelihood. But beyond that, I don't go higher. If I end up closing more than that, well, that's great. And I'm happy about it. But it still has to fit into the fact that I want to enjoy my work. And yes, there are going to be days where real estate tests you and makes you question why you do this at all. That's perfectly normal. But I don't think that it's normal or should even be accepted that week after week, month after month, maybe even year after year, you're going, gosh, like I'm always chasing the next thing and I'm always trying to raise the bar in my business from a production standpoint. And then maybe you don't hit those goals. Maybe life happens and you are tending to personal or family needs and then end up feeling like you didn't do enough because you didn't hit said goal. And that's just simply not the case. Life happens, it's always going to happen, and we have to remain flexible and give ourselves grace within our business. So, yes, set goals. I'm all about setting goals that you are working towards. For me, that keeps me motivated, but not necessarily just a production goal. Maybe your goal is to get to the point that you are free to pick up your kids from school every single day or be there to meet them when they get off the bus. Maybe your goal is to travel a couple months every year. Whatever it is that you feel brings you joy and really lights you up, make that one of your goals. It shouldn't just be about closing a set number of volume or being a top producer. There are thousands of agents that call themselves a top producer. And if you want to manipulate the data, there's so many of these bogus awards out there that agents are paying for to be able to put on their social media profile. And it just gives me the ick. Clients do not care that you sold 15 million in volume in the last 6 months. They really don't even care if you're, the top 1% agent in America. Clients care how you're going to be able to serve them. They want to work with someone that they know, like, and trust. And boasting about our production is not what's going to lead to that relationship to evolve. So just keep that in mind, that it's okay if your goal is to not be a quote unquote top producer or to sell the most amount of real estate. I'm not even close to selling the most amount of real estate. I have sold way more real estate in the past and been borderline miserable in my business because I wasn't interacting with clients and doing the things with them that really fills my cup. It makes me happy. I love going to lunch with my clients or grabbing coffee with them or having a moment to pop by to drop something off to celebrate a life event or show sympathy to them when something has happened in their lives in the form of loss or sadness. And that doesn't make what I want any better or less than what somebody else's want. It's just a different business, and that's okay. Give yourself permission to design a business that you feel joy from. Because if you don't, eventually you're going to burn out. Burnout doesn't come from working a lot. Burnout comes from working a lot on something that you really don't get any joy or satisfaction from. To me, success is being able to have a business that I truly love, and I make no apologies for that whatsoever. I hope you got some value from this video. If you did, drop me a comment below. Let me know what success looks like to you in your business or even in your personal life. Until I see you on the next one, thanks for watching.